Plants are multicellular photosynthetic organisms and they are direct or indirect food sources for most organisms on Earth. Let's see how these valuable plants multiply in number and spread around the world. Living organisms produce new individuals by a process called reproduction. So this reproduction is the process of generating offsprings, that means new organisms. So to be defined other way, the production of new individuals from their parents is known as reproduction. Here you can see the production of new offsprings here from top to bottom. That means the process of production of new offsprings is called reproduction. Usually this reproduction is seen in the case of plants and animals and some other organisms also with different modes. In the case of plants, usually we see two main categories, two main modes of reproduction. They are asexual reproduction and other one is the sexual reproduction. So these two are the main modes of reproduction in the case of plants. So coming to the asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction means here in the case of plants, the parental plants can give rise to new plants without seeds. Then that means the production of the new plants happens without the formation of seeds, that is called asexual reproduction. So to be defined in other way, then this asexual reproduction is the production without the fission of gametes also can be considered as asexual reproduction. We will see and we will discuss what gametes are later. And usually this asexual reproduction happen in 4 types. So here the 4 main varieties of asexual reproduction are vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation and spore formation. So these 4 are the major asexual reproductions usually seen in the case of a plant category. Then coming to the vegetative propagation. So here vegetative propagation means the new plants are produced from the roots, stems, leaves and buds. Usually these are the vegetative parts of the plant. And coming to the examples in the case of vegetative propagation, in this vegetative propagation, new plants may produce from the stem or roots also. Let us discuss about that, how these stems are able to give new plants. So in the case of stems, here we can see that happens through the cutting. Then let us see what is a cutting. Cutting is a piece of branch with a node is termed as a cutting. So piece of stem with a node. Let us see what is a node. So node means it's a part of the stem or branch at which a leaf arises. So node is a part of the branch. We can imagine a circular region where the leaves are arising. So here you can see that then this is the region where the leaf is arised. So next, then this is the node, and the node is a part of the branch where the leaves are rising. So cutting is a part of the stem with a node, and when you cut a small branch with a node and bury in the soil and water it regularly, then that leads to the formation of new plant. So this kind of reproduction is considered as vegetative propagation by the stems. Here you can see this. Then here these are the stem cuttings, and we are placing in the soil and watering, and you can see that formation of the new leaves here. That means the cutting is capable of developing into the new plant completely. So this is the way how this vegetative propagation through the stem happens. Next, coming to the other variety of vegetative propagation through the stems. So in the case of the stems, other way is formation of new plants by the buds. And coming to the bud, what is a bud? So bud is an undeveloped shoot, undeveloped, not completely developed. It's an undeveloped shoot and normally occurs in the axial region of a leaf or at the tip of the stem. Usually you can see here. These buds may be based on the location. We can call as, if the bud is located in the terminal region of the stem, then this is the terminal region of the stem, then it is considered as terminal bud. And if buds are present at the axial region means region where node of the place where leaf is attaching is known as axial. So here the bud is present in this axial position, and this kind of buds are known as axillary buds. So based on function into which they are developing, they are called as vegetative buds. Vegetative buds means the buds will develop into the vegetative part of the plant, and if the bud is developing into the flower, such kind of buds are considered as reproductive buds. Vegetative bud and here this is the reproductive bud. As per our discussion, these buds are of two types, vegetative buds and flower buds. So coming to the vegetative buds, these vegetative buds are capable of developing into the new plants. Let us see. So usually these buds which present at the axial region are considered as axillary buds, and the buds which are present in the margin of the leaves are known as leaf buds. So coming to the axillary region, as we discussed earlier, then these axillary buds are the buds which present at the axillary position. Axillary position means part of the node where the leaves are attaching. The precise area of the node where the leaves are arising are called axillary. These axillary buds are usually we see in the case of our potato, ginger, as well as in the case of turmeric also. That means these axillary buds are capable of developing into the new plant. So for example, in the case of potato, we see small as like scars. These are known as eyes. When you cut this potato into small pieces and bury in the soil, then they start germinating. You can see the germination of this one and development of this particular shoot into a new plant here. That means these axillary buds, when you cut a small portion of the potato with the axillary bud and put it in the soil and water them, they are able to develop into the new plant completely. In the same way, similar way, same kind of vegetative propagation is observed with the ginger also. When you cut a piece of ginger with axillary bud, here this is the axillary bud here, then and put it in the soil. When you place it in the soil and water it, then that develop into the new plant. Here we can see. In the same way, in the case of turmeric also, piece of a stem with the axillary bud is capable of developing to the new plant completely. Here, this potato, ginger and turmeric, these are the stems. And in the case of bryophyllum, so here these are the vegetative bud. In the case if the vegetative buds are present in the leaf, these are considered as leaf buds, usually observed in the case of bryophyllum, and it is considered as sprout leaf plant commonly. So if you look at this particular leaf, then this is the leaf region, and at the tip of this leaf, at the margins, usually we can consider as, and at the margin of leaves we can see the buds here. If you cut a small portion of this leaf and place in the soil, then they are capable of developing into the new plant completely. So this is about the bryophyllum buds also. Here the conclusion is vegetative buds are capable of differentiating into the new plants. Now coming to the wasted propagation through the roots. So in the case of sweet potato, the potato is a stem and sweet potato is a root here. In the case of sweet potato, we can see here. And if you cut this potato into small pieces and place in the soil, they are capable of differentiating into the complete sweet potato plant. Even the same thing is observed with the dahlia. Usually this is the beautiful flower giving plant, and these roots also capable of differentiating into the new plants completely. And other varieties in the case of some plants like cacti. So in the case of cacti, if a small portion of plant is detached from the parental plant, they are capable of differentiating into the complete new plant. Now coming to the advantages of the vegetative propagation. So when compared with the sexual reproduction, there are certain advantages here. So usually it takes less time, as well as the other important advantage is usually the new organism is exactly similar to that of the parental plant. So less time means here usually less time, it takes less time to grow and bear flowers and fruits. And other one is the exact copy as the parent. Then why it takes less time? Usually in the case of, then these two are the modes of reproduction here. Here this is the vegetative propagation by cutting, for example, and this is the parental plant. And when you place a small stem with a node, then that develop completely into the new plant. And other thing is this new plant is exactly similar to that of the parental plant. So usually it takes less time, just taking a cutting and placing in the soil and watering, and it develop into a new plant. But whereas in the case of sexual reproduction, a lot of steps are required, a lot of time is required. For example, it starts with the flowering, and next one that need to differentiate into the fruits and complete maturation of the fruits, and need to place a seed of this particular fruit in the soil, and then they start germinate, and finally that develop into the new plant. Again, it takes a lot of time for the growth of the plant as well as flowering of the plant. So here usually in the case of vegetative propagation takes less time, and the new organism is similar to that of the parent. So these are the advantages of the vegetative propagation. Then coming to the other variety of asexual reproduction, that is budding. Then coming to the definition of this budding, defined as budding is a form of asexual reproduction that results from the outgrowth of a part of cell or a body region, leading to a separation from the original organism into new individuals. Let us see, budding is seen in the case of yeast mainly. So yeast it's a fungi actually. Yeast are eukaryotic single cell fungi. So all single cell fungi are considered as yeast. So yeast are eukaryotic single cell fungi that reproduce asexually by budding or division. So this budding is seen in the case of yeast. So in the case of yeast, usually under the favorable conditions. So favorable conditions means the availability of nutrients and the suitable temperature for the growth of the organisms. So under the favorable conditions, so yeast produce a bulb-like projection. Bulb-like projection on its cell, and this bulb-like projection is considered as a bud that grows and mature as young yeast, and later that differentiate into the young yeast. Here you can see the various stages of the budding in the case of yeast. So this is the young yeast here, and later you can see a outgrowth from the yeast, and the maturation of this outgrowth, that is considered as a bud, and it is developing into the new one, and finally then this bud is separating from the young one and developing into the new organism. Here also you can see electronic image of microscopic image of the budding here. In some cases the conditions are more favorable. Number of buds formed from the parental yeast, and that gives like a chain of buds. Actually we can see here, you can see all this, the young one and attached at the parent yeast, and later this is differentiated into the or developed into the complete new organisms. So this is about the yeast budding in the case of yeast. Next, coming to the fragmentation. The fragmentation, like coming to the definition of fragments, means it's a small piece. And coming to the fragmentation is separating something into fine pieces. So fragment means a small piece from the intact original one, and fragmentation is being separation. So fragmentation is seen in the case of algae. So to understand what exactly it is, let us see what are these algae. Algae are the autotrophic protist unicellular or multicellular organisms. Autotrophic means already we know that they are capable of producing their own food by photosynthesis. Usually algae is seen in the water bodies as a green mat. Here this is the green region we observe in the case of water bodies, and this is considered as algae. And here you can see the algae. Here on surface of this bottle also he collected some water from this lake, and you can see the green color structure present on the bottle also, and this is nothing but algae. And usually near water bodies, near the industrial areas also we can see the well development of the algae. So these industrial waste, they release a lot of nitrogen waste into the water bodies. So due to the high amount of nitrogen, this algae divide continuously and form algal blooms. This is not good for the water bodies. Actually we will discuss about these damages in the later sections. And here also you can see the water and algae. So then coming to this fragmentation in the case of algae. So under the favorable conditions, so favorable conditions means already we know the suitable availability of nutrients as well as the temperature. So here usually we see it as the mat here, but usually when you separate it completely, usually we observe a fragment like structures like this. So this is the fragment of the algae. So during the favorable conditions, when this algae breaks into small fragments, a small piece, then each and every piece able to grow into the new individual like this. This is the newly differentiated algal fragment here. That is the spore formation. So in the case of a spore formation, when you look at this definition for a spore is a minute, typically one cell reproductive unit capable of giving rise to a new individual without sexual fusion. And this is the characteristic feature of lower plants, fungi as well as plants. So now let us see the vegetative propagation through the spore formation. So this kind of reproduction is seen in the case of mainly fungi, and not limited to only fungi, even in the case of mosses and in the case of ferns also we can see this. So let us first discuss about the fungi. So already we know that fungi is a group of spore producing organism. Fungi is a group of spore producing organism feeding on organic matter. Let us see some of the examples where this fungi is present. So here this is the fungi. If you look at the background of this fungi, you can see a dead and decaying material. So this is nothing but organic matter here. So in the case usually these fungi feed on this dead and decaying material. You can see in the background where this fungi is present. Everywhere we can see the decaying material. Reproduction in the case of yeast by spore formation. Usually fungi we observe cotton-like mesh. If you look at this picture, we can see a cotton-like mesh here, moldy bread here, and next one Rhizopus stolonifer in the case of bread, and even on the vegetables also we see cotton-like structure, and this cotton-like mesh is considered as mycelium. So coming to the mycelium, so here to define as mycelium consisting a network of hypha, and here you can see the fung bread mold, different kinds of the different varieties of the fungi we can observe here, and we can see thread like cotton like mesh also we can see here, and the complete structure is mycelium, and this is a vegetative part of the fungi with a network of small fragments known as hypha. Okay, usually we see like a cotton like a mesh that produces spores. Spores means already we know that these are the minute reproductive parts, and this is the scanning electron microscopic image of the spore here. So usually these spores are produced by the vegetative part, that is mycelium. So the features of these spores are usually they are light and float in the air. So because of this lightweight and the ability to float in the air, they travel to the distant places. Then after traveling this distant place, what happens? So usually these spores are covered with hard protective coat. The main advantage of this hard protective coat is that withstand the unfavorable conditions. So what are the unfavorable conditions here? Like high temperature and low humidity. Under these conditions also the organism is unable to survive. So because of this hard coat, the spores are able to survive at high temperature as well as in the under the low humidity also. Here you can see the spores, a grey color regions, and the pink color are the white color are the organisms. Usually it is seen in the case of a certain fungi also. So here that is the main function of the hard protective coat. So under the unfavorable condition that saves the spores, that hard protective coat. When this spore fall on the favorable conditions, then that germinate into the new individual. Here you can see the germination of spore here. So whenever it fall on the favorable conditions, that start producing or germinate and they will differentiate into the new fungi completely. For example, the spores present in the air, when they fall on the surface of the bread piece or slice, then they completely differentiate into the new organism. Even the spore formation is seen in the case of mosses as well as ferns also. So moss means usually mosses are the small non-vascular. Vascular means vascular tissue is nothing but xylem and phloem, which contain water and nutrients in the plants. In the case of mosses, these are the small non-vascular flowerless plants that typically form dense green mat, usually present in the slightly wet or shady locations. Then this is the moss here, usually seen on the surface of the rock as a green mat. Even in certain areas where the colder regions on the walls also we see this, they produce the spores like this. When these spores reach a suitable region area, then that is capable of differentiating into a new plant. And coming to the ferns, usually these ferns are very familiar to us as an ornamental plant. Here you can see this is a fern, and to define as these ferns, Then this plant is a vascular plant. It's a vascular plant. That means plants with xylem and phloem that reproduce via spores and have neither seeds nor flowers. They differ from the mosses by being vascular, that is having specialized tissue that contains water and nutrients. So that is the only difference between the mosses and ferns. In the case of moss, they are non-vascular, but fern are vascular. So then this is a fern plant, and so behind the leaves of these fern plants we see a small seed-like structures, and these seed-like structures are known as sori. These sori are spore forming bodies actually. So inside this sori, like seed-like structures, spores are present, and these spores, whenever they reach a suitable place, they differentiate it into the new fern plant completely. So that is all about the asexual reproduction and modes of asexual reproduction by vegetative propagation, budding, and next one is the spore formation. Now let us come into the sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction means in sexual reproduction new plants are obtained from the seeds. Here you can see this one. These are the various stages like flowering, and next one differentiation of flower into the fruits and maturation of fruits, and from the seeds you can see the new plants develop. That means here seeds are being involved in the sexual reproduction. So to make it more clear, to understand clearly, so we can see here sexual reproduction that starts with yes, and seed formation is being involved here. So sexual reproduction that happens through the seeds. So the sexual reproduction occurs by a reproductive part, and that is called as a flower. Flowers, they are with male and female reproductive parts. Then coming to the male reproductive part is called as stamen. So if you look at this stamen, men is present in the stamen. So to remember it, so stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower, and the pistil is the female reproductive part of the flower. Male reproductive part is the stamen, and the female reproductive part is the pistil. And based on the presence of this male and female reproductive part, these flowers are classified as unisexual flowers and bisexual flowers. So in the case of unisexual flowers, they contain either only pistil, that is female reproductive part, or only stamen, that is male reproductive part. Here you can see that then this is the flower with female reproductive part here, and one here also this flower is with the male reproductive part only, that is with the stamen, and this is the pistillate flower. Here only pistil is present here. And usually unisexual flowers, they contain either stamen or a pistil, as we discussed. Usually it is observed in the case of corn, papaya, and cucumber. Here you can see this is the corn flower, and this is the papaya flower. All these are the unisexual flowers. That means they contain only one male, either male reproductive part or female reproductive part. In the case of cucumber, these are the examples for the unisexual flowers. Then coming to the bisexual flowers. So bisexual flowers, they contain both stamen as well as a pistil. That means both male and female reproductive parts are present in the case of bisexual flowers. Here you can see the flower is with the both male as well as female reproductive flower, pistil and stamen. To compare, here you can see in the case of unisexual, you can see only pistil in some flowers and stamens in some other flowers. That means male and female reproductive parts are present in the different flowers. But whereas in the case of bisexual, we can see the presence of both pistil as well as stamen in the same flower. So bisexual flowers, they contain both stamen as well as pistil, and usually seen in the case of mustard flower, rose flower, and petunia also. And these are the mustard flowers. And in the case of rose also we can see the presence of both male and female reproductive parts in the same flower. Even in the case of petunia also we can observe both male and female reproductive parts. So we are coming to the further discussion of this male reproductive part. Usually the stamen contains anther as well as filament. So then if you look at this stamen, in the case of Liliaceae stamen, we can see a region, a tubular region, and this is considered as anther, and a tube-like structure here, and this is called filament. So here this stamen contain anther as well as filament, or other way, anther and filament together known as stamen. You can see white filament here attached with a lobe called anther. So usually this anther, we can see in this anther dust-like particles. We will see what these are called. So this anther contain pollen grains. So here this anther contains dust-like these pollen grains. You can see here, and individual pollen grains are observed like this. They looks like this. This is the microscopic image of the individual pollen grains. So these pollen grains, they produce a male gametes. So on surface of this anther producing the pollen grains, and these pollen grains, they contains the male gametes of the flower. They produce male gametes. Okay, just before going to the further discussion, let us discuss about the female reproductive part. So female reproductive part is known as pistil, and usually this pistil is divided into, or which contains three parts: stigma, style, and ovary. Then coming to the structure of this flower, here we can see this is the stigma, and tubular structure is the style, and this base is considered as ovary. You can see here stigma, style, and ovary, oval shaped ovary here. Inside the ovary we can see the grain-like structures. These are known as ovules. And this is the stigma, and this tubular region is the style, and the base portion is called as the ovary. Inside the ovary also we can see seed-like structures. These are known as ovules. So further, these ovules, they contain a female reproductive gamete, otherwise known as egg. Egg is present here. So ovules are possessing the egg cell, otherwise known as a female gamete. These female gametes are present in the ovules. These ovules are the seed-like structures of the ovary of the flower. Process of production of new plants. The pollen grains which reach the stigma of the flower. The pollen grains reach the stigma of the flower, and this process of reaching of these pollen grains to the stigma of the flower is known as pollination. Here, this pollination is the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. This pollination may be self-pollination or cross-pollination. In self-pollination, the pollen lands on the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant. So here the self-pollination occurs in the same flower or flower of the same plant also we can see. Here you can see the transfer of pollen grains. Here this is the like one male flower here. From this anther, the pollen grains are reaching to the stigma of the other flower of the same plant. And coming to the other variety, in some cases the stamens as well as pistil are present in the same plant. If this pollen grain transfers from stamen to the pistil of the same flower of the same plant, this is considered as self-pollination. That means here self-pollination means pollen grains of the same plant is reaching this pistil of the same plant. If you look at this based on the sexuality, these are the unisexual flowers and this is the bisexual flower having the both male and female reproductive parts. So this pollination may be self-pollination or maybe cross-pollination also. So cross-pollination occurs between the flowers of the two different plants. Here this is the cross-pollination. Here the pollen grains are reaching from flower of the plant to the pistil of the other plant of the same kind of species. So this is a unisexual flower here. Okay, so here this is the way how the pollen grains are reaching the stigma of the plant. Then after reaching this one, what happens? Let us see. This is a complete female reproductive part, and this is the ovary. Inside the ovary, seeds like structures, ovules are present. Inside the ovules, this female gamete or egg cell is present. That yellow colored one is representing the egg cell. So egg cell is present in the ovule and they are present one or many ovules in the ovary, and this ovary is the part of the flower, female reproductive part of the flower. Here ovules, they produce female gametes and these are called egg. So during the pollination, as we discussed, pollination means transfer of pollen grains to the stigma. Then after reaching the stigma, what happens here? Then this is the pollen grain that is on stigma of the flower. Whenever this pollen grain reaches the stigma, then the pistil produce certain enzymes. From stigma, the pollen tube and penetrate the outgrowth into the style region, and finally that reaches the ovary, and inside the ovary ovules are present. Inside the ovules egg cells are present. The pollen grain is having the male gamete, and finally the male gamete fuse with the female gamete which is present in the ovule. So this male and female gametes, they fuse together, and the fusion of male gametes with the female gamete is known as a fertilization. So here we can see the pollen tube here. Inside this pollen tube, male gamete is present, and this is the pollen tube. This pollen tube forms whenever the pollen grain touches the stigma, and through this pollen tube, the male gamete reaches the female gamete, and the fusion of male gamete with the female gamete is known as fertilization, and this fertilization produces the zygote. In sexual reproduction, a male and a female gametes fuse to form a zygote. So zygote is the result of a fusion of male and female gametes, and later this zygote develops into embryo. So this embryo is the underdeveloped part later which differentiated into the new one. So then after this fertilization, then this ovary, so ovary means already we know that what exactly it is. It's a hollow enlarged base of the pistil or female reproductive part of the flower that contain one or more ovules. So here this ovary after fertilization grows into the fruit, and that fruit may be fleshy or juicy, or that may be hard also. So fleshy and juicy in the case of mango and oranges, juicy fruits, or even the fruits may be hard like almonds and walnuts. Okay, then after fertilization, these ovules, already we know that where these ovules are present also. After fertilization, what is the fate of these ovules? These ovules, they are changing into the seeds of the fruit. So simple thing is, ovary is developing into the fruit, while the ovules are present inside the ovary that are developing into the seeds. So ovary to fruit and ovules to seeds. Ovules inside the ovary, seeds inside the fruit. Okay, then the seeds move to distant places by seed dispersal. Then what is the need for the dispersal of these seeds? So here dispersal means the act of dispersing. Dispersal means cause to separate and go into different directions. That may be anything, that may be something. Okay, so here seed dispersal, then seed dispersal is the movement or spread or transport of seeds away from the parent plant. Then what is the necessity? Usually these plants have limited mobility and they rely on the different vectors. We will see what are the vectors, maybe water or wind. Variety of vectors for the dispersal of the seeds. So let us see what need for seed dispersal is. The main function of seed dispersal is to avoid competition for the sunlight, water as well as minerals and space. If the seeds are not dispersing and fall in the same place, either we can see the outgrowth of the many plants here. Then here all the plants are unable to get the sufficient sunlight and nutrients as well as water and space also, and they fail to germinate and develop into the new plant. So here, to avoid this competition, they need to disperse to the new regions, so where they can get the nutrients, what are the sunlight, water, minerals and spaces. And the seed dispersal carried away by the different agents are like wind, water, even in the case like some certain animals also, by certain animals, and by fruit burst also. So in the case of wind, how this wind supports seed dispersal? Usually the seeds fly away and land in all kinds of places. For at least a few seeds to land in a space suitable for growth. So in the case of this wind, the seeds fly away and land in all kinds of places. So for this part, usually the plant which disperse their seeds by wind produce a lot of seeds, so that at least a small portion of the seeds may germinate into the new plant. So in the case of this kind of plants, usually we observe different features. Some may be with the hairy fruits, and some may be having the hairy seeds, and some may be having the light seeds and winged seeds. All these structures supports the dispersal of the seed by the wind. So in the case of this hairy fruit is usually seen in the case of sunflower. So because of this hairy fruit, they travel to the different places easily. Here you can see. And in the case of some plants, they produce the hairy seeds. So because of these hairy seeds, for example, seen in the case of agar or madar, and technically it is known as calotropis. So this is a commonly seen flower in our area, and the fruit is present, this one, and this fruit is producing hairy seed. If you look further here, this seed is possessing a lot of hair. So because of this hair that float in the air and travel to the distant places. And next one, in the case of grasses, so usually light seeds are seen in the case of grasses. So being light, they float in the air and travel to the very distant places. These are the seeds, grass seeds. So because of their lightweight, then they travel to the distant places, and whenever they get a suitable place, they germinate into the new plant. And in the case of certain plants, they produce winged seeds. So for example, in the case of drumstick, then this is a drumstick seeds, they are possessing the wing shape structures, and these wings supports the travel of these seeds from the parental plant to the distant place. Other example is a maple seed. In the case of maple seed also, we can see wing-like structures. This wing-like structure supports the travel of the seeds into the distant places. This is another picture of the maple tree, maple seed. Next one, seed dispersal by the water. Fruits and seeds usually develop floating ability in the form of spongy or fibrous outgrowth. So to use water as a agent, the fruits or seeds, they possess the spongy tissue. So this tissue supports the floating ability, that gives floating ability to the fruits or seeds. So fruits or seeds, they develop a floating ability in the form of a spongy or fibrous outer coat. Spongy or fibrous outer coat usually seen in the case of coconut. So because of this spongy and fibrous outer coat, that is able to float in the water and travel to the distant places. In this way, seeds are dispersed from parental plant to the new regions. And in certain plants, they use animals as their seed dispersal agent. Animals can also disperse seeds by excreting. So when they eat the fruits, seeds are present inside the fruit. So animal eat the fruit of the parental plant and travel to the different other place and excrete the seeds. Or in some cases, even that bury the particular fruit in the soil, and whenever the seed get the suitable condition, they develop into the new plant. In some other cases, the fruits have hook-like structures that attach themselves to the animals. So by these three varieties, that means by excreting the new areas or burying in the same place or other place, or the fruits, certain fruits, they have the hook-like structures. So with that hook-like structure, they get attached to the animals. So by all this means, they travel to the distant places. So in the case of animals, certain seeds, they possess spiny seeds with hooks. Here you can see spiny seed with hook also. These fruits are bearing the hook-like structures. So with these spiny seeds with hook, they give provision for attachment of these fruits or seeds to the animal bodies, and these animals carry to the distant places, and whenever they get the favorable condition, they develop into the new plant, usually seen in the case of xanthium and even in the case of Erina. So this is the xanthium here and Erina here. This is the way how these seeds disperse to the animals. Next, in certain cases, sudden fruit burst. So because of the sudden burst, the seeds can travel in all directions or scatter in all directions away from the parental plant, and in a new area they differentiate into the new plant, usually seen in the case of castor seed. And when it opens, then the seed disperses to the new region. Even this is seen in the case of balsam seed pods also. So these are the various means by which seeds disperse to the various places, so that facilitate the spreading of the plants into the new regions. That may be the agent may be wind, water, or animal, or in some cases the fruit burst also. This is all about the reproduction in the case of plants by sexual reproduction. To conclude, sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction by vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation, and spore formation. Vegetative propagation, it may be by stem or root or a part of plant also, by stem cutting. So here by buds also. In the case of cutting, then should possess a node, and if you place it in the soil, develop into a new plant. And buds may be vegetative or flower buds. Again, vegetative bud may be axillary bud present in the axils of the node, or leaf bud. Axillary buds developed into a new plant in the case of potato, ginger and turmeric. In the case of ginger and turmeric also. And leaf buds seen in the case of Bryophyllum. And vegetative propagation by roots seen in the case of sweet potato and dahlia. Cacti, small fragment, if separated from the parent one, then develop into a new plant. Advantages already we know that in less time new individual is formed and exactly similar to the parent. That is about the vegetative propagation. And budding is seen in the case of yeast. It's a simple outgrowth under the favorable conditions from the cell or surface of the body, and that outgrowth is called bud, and later that developed into the new individual in the case usually observed in the case of yeast. And coming to the fragmentation observed in the algae, a small portion detached from the parent and differentiated into the new individual. And spore formation seen in the case of reproduction by this means seen in the case of fungi, mosses and ferns. In the case of fungi, the vegetative mycelium is producing the spores. Usually they are with a hard protective coat. This hard protective coat enables the spore to survive under unfavorable conditions like high temperature and low humidity. When the conditions are favorable, then they germinate into the new individual. So these spores are light, afloat in air and travel to distant places. So here all this by all this means the individuals are reproducing, that means they are developing new individuals and they are spreading to the different regions. And sexual reproduction involve the formation of seeds. So sexual reproduction happens by a reproductive part called a flower. Flower contains male and female reproductive parts, and stamen is the male reproductive part, and the stamen consisting of anther and filament. Anther produces pollen grains. Yeah, here it is, anther and filament. Anther produces the pollen grains, and this is the stamen. And coming to the female reproductive part, that is called a pistil, consisting of stigma, style and ovary. So some plants, the flowers may contain only based on the presence of this one reproductive part, that may be unisexual or bisexual flowers. In the case of unisexual, uni means single, the flowers bearing single sexual part are considered as unisexual. Here only pistil or stamen is present. Here only pistil is present here. Here only stamen is present here. And here bisexual. Here we can see both male and female reproductive part, that is pistil and stamen. Yeah, for the formation of seed, the two major events are, the first one is the pollen grains would reach to the stigma of the flower. So the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma is considered as pollination. This pollination may be self-pollination or cross-pollination. In the case of self-pollination, the transfer of pollen grains occurs from anther of the same flower to the stigma of the same flower or flower of same plant also. That means here the criteria is happening of this pollination within the same plant. And in the case of cross pollination, the pollen grains of a anther reaches to the stigma of the flower present in the other plant. This is called, that means in the case of cross pollination, the pollination happening between the flowers of the two plants. Okay, then after reaching to the stigma, the pollen grain, they produce a tube-like structure known as pollen tube. So this pollen tube in the later stages, they grow and travel through the style of the flower, and finally that reach to the ovary. Already we know that inside this ovary ovules are present. Inside this ovule, female reproductive part, that is egg cell, is present. And this main gamete of the pollen grain, here you can see the pollen grain with the pollen tube. This black one is the male gamete, and this male gamete travel through the pollen tube and reach the female gamete present in the ovule, and they produce a zygote. Later this zygote develop into the embryo, and this embryo develop into the new plant. So after fertilization, ovary grows into the fruit and ovules grow into the seed. So the fruits may be fleshy and juicy. Fleshy fruits is seen in the case of mango and orange, and hard fruits is usually seen in the case of almonds and walnuts. And these seeds move to the distant place by a process called seed dispersal. The purpose of the seed dispersal is to avoid competition for sunlight, water, minerals and space. And next one, the seed dispersal is in maybe a wind, water, animal or by a fruit burst. The features of the seeds or fruits which use wind as the seed dispersal vector, usually they possess hairy fruit or hairy seeds or light seeds and winged seeds. Here these are the examples where these features are present. And water, usually they possess a floating ability, they get floating ability by having spongy fibrous outer coat is seen in the case of coconut. So because of this they travel to the distant place. And to be travel through the animals, usually the plants, they possess spiny seeds with hooks. So that enables the attachment to the animal and travel to the distant place as seen in the case of xanthium and urina. And in some cases, the fruit burst itself that enable the scattering of seeds into the new regions in all directions. So by all this means the plants are producing by sexual as well as asexual reproduction.